Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel for a brand new live video. And you know what happens right now. It's Friday night, and that means it's happy hour. And there is no one that I want to celebrate happy hour more with than not Dewey right now when he knocks everything over, but with the team behind the movie Mother's Little Helpers, which you should be aware of because I covered this movie at South by Southwest last year, and it is so well worth watching. Please check it out. But just in case you haven't, I've got the team from the movie here to talk about it. We have star, writer, and director Kestrin Pantera. We've got stars Breeda Wolf and Melanie Hutsell. Look at this.
Hello.
Happy hour, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers to you and cheers to your movie. Wait, what is everybody drinking right now?
Water. No. This is Prosecco. That's all I drink now.
You're speaking my language. The only two things I drink are Prosecco and Blue Moon. But I
love Blue Moon.
I love
Blue Moon. That's the Prosecco of beers.
I feel like that's probably an accurate description.
I am the most boring. I am having sparkling water because if it starts early, I will be in bed by 6 o'clock.
I can understand that right now. I feel like my bedtime is very, very thrown off. Usually Friday nights, I'll do this for a little while, but it's not a party night. I'm going to be in bed by like 10, 11 o'clock.
Right.
Breeda, what do you have there?
Coffee. I'm drinking the whipped coffee.
Ooh,
nice.
That's really good.
It's a TikTok craze. You'd love it.
Oh, is it really? If you tell me that, it doesn't even matter.
You take coffee and water and sugar and you whip it up and then put it on some milk.
Wait, are you joking with me? Is there seriously like a tutorial on how to make whipped coffee on TikTok?
Oh, it's like people are making it because it went crazy. Well, combination, only like a instant coffee could happen, like go crazy in the quarantine. People are like making like fancy like barista like instant coffees, and yeah, it was a TikTok craze.
See, you can really learn some things on TikTok. I'm not going to learn any of the dances anytime soon, but that whipped coffee might be in my future. So we are here for a very important reason. We need everybody out there to be aware of your movie because you guys know, or at least Melanie, we didn't meet, but when you two came into the South by studio, I loved your movie, but I feel like I didn't appreciate it even enough because, you know, it's when you go to a film festival and you see God knows how many movies, the details don't really sink in. And I had the opportunity to rewatch it. And I don't know, like, I hope you guys are so proud of what you did because the family connections in it are just so palpable and real and powerful. And I don't know, job well done. Thumbs up all around.
Thank you.
I mean it. So
I'm ruining my eyeliner. I'm like tearing up. You guys, you just got to take every single piece of love the world gives you.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Kestrin, can you tell me where all of this started? Because I know this is an unusual production as it's a movie that you guys made based on an outline, not a traditional script, correct?
Yes. So it was based off of an outline that I discovered when I was cleaning out my office because I had to move out of my office because the school shut down in Los Angeles and I had to like give it up. And as I was going through it, I found a notebook from 2015 where I wrote out all the characters, their relationships, their names, their backstories, how their stories wound together with a twist in the end, and was like, oh, shit, that took a while to happen. And it was based on the experience that I had coming together with my extended family for the departure is the polite way to say the death of a family member. And it's really similar to what's happening right now because you're like going home to spend the final hours with the person who you love, but you don't know exactly, you don't get to choose what those hours are or when it stops or when you get to leave. All you do is buy a one-way ticket there and just like sit it out because you don't want to like get tacos and then have them die while you're gone. And you're like, I missed it. Like, and it's really odd how we can find a way, like no matter what tragedy is happening to someone, we always are able to personalize it and kind of make it about us. But then there's also this idea of empathy where we are able to put aside our needs and our preferences no matter what for the greater good, you know, when we're in the room with the person who's going through it. Like we put on a face, it's kind of like you're acting like on your best behavior. So that experience really stuck with me. And then in 2018, we made the film, and I was standing in my kitchen talking to Breeda on New Year's Day. And she was like, I'm on a show, so I can't do anything until February. If you want to make something like a podcast. And I was like, how about a feature film about the death of a parent where everyone comes together in isolation and goes insane? And she was like, I mean, I was thinking more like
I'm leaving in 2 weeks.
You're like, yep. I mean, I was thinking a short, but then she shared her personal experience, and I guess I'll let her speak to it. That I thought that I had this shocking, unique personal experience, and then I talked to Breeda, and her dad died, and then she shared. Made it seem like it was universal.
I know, it's interesting. It's. I feel like our movie. One of my favorite things about our movie is that, you know, we have these weird taboos in our culture, and I feel like a big taboo is like how like people being born and like the process of people like getting pregnant and getting born and women and like miscarriages and like getting pregnant and all this stuff, and then people dying. It's like we just like want to like cut off the ends and get straight to like the parties and the karaoke. just cut off the beginning, cut off the end. And so it was interesting when my father passed away about 4 years ago, and I realized that I was part of this like weird dark club, and there was all these the neighborhood ladies that I didn't know at all. They were my mom knew some of them pretty well, but some of them hardly at all. They like came over and prepared us food. One of them had a key to our house, and people would just come in while we were at the hospital or trying to deal with this like really monumental epic life moment, and make us food and leave it there and leave, like make food for like 10 people and then leave. Like they weren't like, you know, and there's this whole like universe of these people. And so I feel like it was amazing at South by, we would have these parties after our movies. And it was like this one moment where people could just like party and also feel like they could talk about these weird taboo topics, you know, like taboo topics, like the wild thoughts that you think during the death of a family member, especially a parent, that's just like, you know, like Kestrin said, like all about you. And it's just like these wild kind of epic thoughts where you're like 10 years old 1 second, and then you're dying yourself the next second. And it's like this wild life experience that kind of goes untalked about, especially the funny bits of it.
There's a lot of humor. When you get like the 5 funniest people that you've ever met in a room, if it's for like the birth of a child or the death of a loved one, it's hilarious. Even in the darkness. And it's like we're only capable of processing so much. So it was like
also that the volume turned all the way up, right? Like death makes like like your life becomes so magnified. And so there's nothing more hilarious than like magnification of life. It's like the shit just gets real weird real fast. And I felt like
genuinely can't process what you guys pull off as far as emotion plus humor. It's like I can obviously feel it as it's happening, but I have no idea how you figure out the recipe in order for certain jokes to land when you're talking about such like a serious, devastating topic. But it's just like the moments that come to mind were just like the last gasp and Breeda, you imitating it. Like every time I watch the movie, I cackle. And it's like part of it feels wrong, but part of it is also like, I don't know, like a cathartic release, I guess.
Thank you. It is a weird, but that was my experience with that. Like with death was my sisters and my mom and I like packed into this like ICU, like sleeping on floors and in this like epic state of madness. And then like going to get like a pizza at the hospital, like, you know, cafeteria and making a joke with my sister. And it was like it was the best and funniest and just like, I don't know. That's like, I feel like you have to, that's what makes people so charming. Is that we get like, and it's what makes the quarantine mixed with this like extreme tragedy and these very scary times, mixed with like the most hilarious like mania and like sadness, and but also like just a very like goofy little hobbits that want to like bang on drums and like, you know, and like play guitar and like, and so
and I have to say, like, it was weird being the one like taking that last breath. And you know, I will say that although a lot of our film was improvised, there was a bit of a plan there, because I remember Kestrin talking about like, you're gonna be like you're silent until like way too long goes by, and then like, you know, it was just like so scary to do that and to like do all the coughing and all that stuff. Like my mom watched the trailer recently and she was like, honey, I heard that cough and I just don't know. I just don't know if I can watch you in this movie. And she said, I don't know if I've ever told you, but when you were an infant, you had a barking cough. I was just like, oh my God. It was just funny. But
it might sound like a silly question, but is that seriously you coughing throughout the movie?
No, that's a good question. And yes, I did do a lot of the coughing. And it was painful the next day, which it's really weird to talk about this under the current set of circumstances that we're living in. But yeah, and then they did enhance it. They enhanced the cough.
That's something else. I just made the assumption that it was some sort of sound effects added in post.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I did a lot of coughing.
Job well done, because that stressed me out for you. So
sorry, Perri.
This is an improvised movie here. So what would you say? Actually, all right, for each of you, maybe list a do and a don't if you're going to make an improvised feature film.
Do listen to your fellow actors when you're doing the scenes, and listen very intently, and don't be thinking about what's going to be funny about the scene. Just let it unfold, and be directed by Kestrin Pantera.
Yeah.
Kestrin, you're so serious. Oh, there you are. Yeah, that's what I would say. Listening is the most important thing in improv. That's what I learned as a 51-year-old woman that's been doing comedy for a little minute.
How about for you from the directing perspective, Kestrin? What are the do's and don'ts that you would give to somebody else who might want to jump into a feature like this soon?
Know how to edit, and have that edit at the top of your head for every scene, and know where it starts and where it ends. I think with improv, people think like, what? You just made it up. And it's like, well, you made it all up you riffed dialogue off of a really well-defined skeleton. So I would say have your skeleton strong and your bones be full of, what is it? What is inside of the bone? That stuff.
Marrow?
Marrow.
Oh my God, I can't believe I knew that.
Marrow. Like you got to be in tune with your marrow. And don't, don't hire, I can only say yes. It's like you want to have a really agile team that's up to be flexible and fluid. Like I think a really traditional, like militaristic top-down discipline style, like classic film structure set would be a challenge with this sort of thing. I think it would tick people off, but if you inform people well of what it is that they're getting into and they're on board with the agility, then it'll be really fun.
You brought up editing, and I noticed in the credits that there were a whole lot of editors on this. How was that work divvied up among them all?
Yeah, so the film, when we shot it, was accepted to this awesome program called the Edit Center in Gowanus, Brooklyn. And they cut Beast of the Southern Wild and Winter's Bone and all these other great indie films. And it's like a lab where they workshop your whole movie and cut it for free. And so they cut, like, it was just the class that cut it up. And then there were, a significant percentage of the scenes in the final cut were from this editing program, and part of the thing was they all had to be credited.
That's the coolest thing, but I can't tell if for students it's more stressful to just like have footage from an improvised movie plopped in your lap versus something that's more strictly scripted.
Yeah, they have a doc division and a narrative division, and ours kind of weaseled into the narrative division because, I mean, what with me is that you do your first take. You don't know what anyone's going to say to get from A to C, but you know you're going to go from A to C. And the B will reveal itself in the first take. And then you just push in and cover it like you would cover any dialogue scene. And you get a couple extra alts. So the experience is so similar to just any normal scripted film. You're just figuring out what the script is kind of in the moment.
Did you immediately know who you wanted to cast in each role? Or was there any, like, did you ever consider maybe, I don't know, like casting Breeda instead of, you know, the older sister who lost her way as like the young sister who wanted to be a doctor? Like, I'm not putting it down to simple descriptors like that.
No, everything was super crystal clear. I knew exactly who I wanted. I wanted them badly, and I was so afraid to ask all of them to do it because they were the best actors that I knew, and all happened to say yes and be available. Melanie and Milana were really scary. Melanie, I didn't know that much, so maybe she was the most like terrifying. But because she was like this famous actress that I saw and was like a comedy hero from when I was like watching SNL. I remember seeing her on SNL, so that was really exciting.
Where'd she go?
Whoops.
We're back.
I turned into a robot for a moment.
Got a little frozen there.
Me?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I look amazing to me over here.
Just because I'm like semi-distracted by it now, what is the lobster in the background?
Oh, good question. When I was depressed the year before I made the movie, I went to a friend's house. I wasn't making anything and I was really bummed out. And my house had like black mold in it. So we had to emergency evacuate. I had little kids who kept going to the ER and were really sick. And we just had to leave our house in the middle of the night and go sleep on like the floor next door in an empty apartment. And we had to buy a house really fast.
Oh, no, I feel like this is the good part of the story.
Oh, shoot.
I know, she's like, and then finally, his last breath.
Oh,
I'm back. Can you see me? Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, great. Okay, so I was really bummed out, and I went to visit a friend's house, and I saw this lobster in her house, and was like, I love that lobster. Where did you get it? And she was like, I don't know. And then we carried on, and then 3 months later, the January that we filmed this movie, she called me, that friend, and was like, hey, we're moving. Do you want the lobster? I'm downsizing. And like the lobster, I was like, I wanted that lobster. I got that lobster. So what if I ask Breeda to be in my movie? And she says, yes, because the lobster happened. Maybe Breeda will happen. And I did that for every decision that I made. I did that for our DP and our producer. I was like, I mean, I don't know, like the lobster happened and then Breeda said yes. So maybe Melanie Hutsell back in the fucking movie. I don't know. And it got us all the way into South by. Like I would like a year later, I was like, I mean, I don't know. We got the lobster, so maybe it's a South by movie.
Good for that friend of yours for remembering how much you liked the lobster too.
Lisa Taylor Rosenfeld, thank you.
So what was it like shooting the movie? I assume you guys were on location and in that house often?
Yeah, it was like being insane, trapped in a house.
Whose house was that? Where did you find it? And I guess maybe talk a little bit about some of the set dressing too, because that's obviously a very striking quality of the movie, just how lived in it feels.
Yeah, that's Milana's house.
I remember the comment about her dog, but I didn't remember it being her house.
Yeah, she something about Milana is like, man, she is a very generous human. And we've talked about it. Kestrin and Milana together is like all of a sudden as an actor and like all the people that came, like all of a sudden people are like, do you want a karaoke RV? Come into our karaoke RV. Would you like a house? Here's my house. Like they have plenty and they share plenty. And it's sort of this amazing experience, and also very, very professional and precise and exacting, and like, so it's not like you just like are like throwing a party at Milana's house all the time, but she's like, let's make a thing, like let's make it happen, 1, 2, wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
If I could tag on to that for 1 second, I will say that, coming onto that set and it being Milana's house, like, just made it so, the fact that it belonged to one of the actors in the film, it made it so homey and so good, and just like instant atmosphere that worked for the story. And also some of our producers, Eva and Tammy, they were cooking every day, like vegan meals, and I happen to be vegan, and that just made it feel like, man, I'm being taken care of. Yeah. We got Kestrin, we have all these amazing actors that have come together, and I just felt like from the first minute, like, Kestrin wasn't lucky to get me, I was lucky to get this. So anyway,
jumping off of that,
yeah.
Melanie and Breeda, if you could pick one thing that Kestrin does as a director, as a leader on set, and bring that with you to every other project you work on, what would it be?
It's actually a really good question, because this movie, I brought this movie into so much of my experience on this movie as an actor was so impactful for a lot of the other work that I do. When you walk on a TV set, or, like on Mr. Mercedes, a lot of the crew are the same, and there's this, it's like this thing that's grinding out. And to make a movie that is an environment, actually Mr. Mercedes is a pretty family environment as well. There's a lot of family involved in that too. But the allowances that Kestrin made artistically for everybody involved, from the DPs to the producers and the inclusionary sort of behavior, like actually, like for instance, Kestrin acts through this whole movie. So there was one time where I was on set, and it was like she was like, do you want to watch the scene and like give some feedback, and just allowing me to like step in, and I don't know, just this we always talk about moms making movies, and on the eve of Mother's Day, but Kestrin joked when our premiere that like managing a kid's like extreme highs and lows, emotional highs and lows, but having to get your day done in the end of the day is like kind of how you experience. You feel like you're allowed to play. You feel like you're allowed to, and also just not having a script and dealing with such intense subject matters was so liberating and so beautiful for me to be able to explore my own creative side. So I tried to take that, I was like, I need to have this level of creative enlightenment when I'm given a lot more restrictions. I was like, how do I take this non-restrictive creative environment and apply it to places where I have a lot more restrictions? Like where when you're going into a set and you have to be like, out, and you have one take to do it, and you're like, or 2 takes to do it, and it's not so tender and careful,
I would say my answer is much shorter than that. But that was so good. No, that
oh my God, have I been talking for an hour and a half?
I would say this to other directors thinking about directing a film in this way. Hire people that you love and respect, and make them feel like rock stars. Let them know that you trust that everything that's going to come out of their mouth is going to be freaking awesome, and then as they are doing it, just that after every take, like, oh man, oh my God, I don't know. There was just something about the way she would talk to all of us after each thing of just like, I don't have to do anything. It's you guys, and it just, it builds this feeling of like, man, I've got this. I can do this, So that's what I would say.
This is another part of the reason why hearing about this movie makes me so happy, because that environment on set is just so important. And I wish everyone would just have such a positive creative experience out there. So we're going to open it up to live chat questions. I'm going to jump right back to you, Breeda, but I see you guys out there. I see Billy, Christy, Neil, you're all there. Chime in with some questions. We're going to take a couple before we wind this down. But Breeda, back to you. What were you going to add?
Oh, I was going to say it's like it's a community-made movie. And that community extends to like, just because something's community-made doesn't mean that it's like a craft fair. Like the community actually extends to like, you know, subtractive and like these really incredible people who, like Kestrin said, you just ask for something. And sometimes people are like, I guess it's a testament to Kestrin as well as a filmmaker. But like Kestrin also talked about the Duplass brothers and their structure around this notion that there's more egalitarianism on set, or there's more equality, which is very inspiring to every department and every division inside of a system, which is fun in the end.
So with your art department question, I was like, I really just intercepted Milana's cleaners. I was like, please don't clean right now. Just like I wanted dust to be like poofing and like catching the sun, like the sun rays. So it was really just talking her out of.
It comes through. it does give it that kind of texture to the visuals. This is very random, but how did you come up with the worms angle? I mean, maybe I just haven't done my research on what is?
That's real. That was from my father-in-law.
Really?
They were worm farmers.
Oh, wow. So wait, can you just explain worm farming to me briefly?
Yeah. So worms are the mechanism through which compost is generated. So anytime people have a compost bin, it's a worm bin, essentially, or it becomes part of a worm bin, and then the worms eat it and they poop it out, and then that becomes the like rich soil that causes everyone to grow. Worms are also, you know, what changes a decaying body into like a tree. And then the trash can angle, I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but the trash can family member, that was a real Uncle Trash Can.
Huh. I'm probably going to sit online and like Google documentary videos about worm farmers now, because that's kind of fascinating.
Oh yeah, we just grew up in worms. They would give us like buckets of worms in Austin, and we would drive around with these Tupperware bins full of rotting food and worms, and then take them back and then like give our garden a little boost.
Wait, I wanted to ask you about the RV also, because I know you have your karaoke RV.
Yeah.
Have you thought at all about, while all of this is going on, kind of pivoting to a digital version?
We have tried. So we did so many, when we were talking about syncing and audio issues in this, we have worked remote karaoke system, and there's a lag. There's a fundamental lag that's going on that's so microcosmic that you can't sing in a group together. So we did a Jesus Christ Superstar sing along on Easter Sunday, and we will have some surprises coming up later this month involving Mothers Little Helpers and the karaoke RV, which is parked in front of my house right now. I like signed off with my neighbors. I don't know if you can see it. You see a green tour bus?
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Woo-hoo!
I miss that freaking bus so much.
So fun.
I was having like the roughest South by one year. This is before we did our movie. And I was just like sleeping in a house with like a bunch of like frat dudes on the couch. Like it was just like it was like years and years ago. And it was just the South by where you're just like, oh my gosh, am I ever gonna sleep again? Am I ever gonna like eat again? What's happening? And I was so bummed that I'm walking down the street and all of a sudden the karaoke RV comes around the corner. And your husband, Jonathan, and one of our producers, Jonathan Bernstein, like stuck their heads out the window and were like, Breeda! And like, the whole festival completely changed. And I jumped on the bus and was like, instantly, like Scott, our beautiful friend Scott, like got me right on the mic immediately. I cut the whole mic line and like sang instantly. And I was like, my whole life.
That Proud Mary, I
got saved by the karaoke RV.
I need to experience it once all of this is over. And I told you, I'm like very hesitant about karaoke. I'm not much of a singer, but there's something about that I'm like, that's genius. I got to at least give it a shot.
Well, you can also just sit and watch and have a drink and like
Usually I'm the bar hugger. Like I'll sit there and I'll marvel at the people who are just so insanely talented at it.
It usually works that we'll figure out what kind of music you like by seeing which songs you sing along in the background on, and then at a certain point, like inch closer to you until you like can't.
That's fair. And if you give me enough liquid courage, I will do just about anything.
Yeah.
Have you guys thought at all about making more stories with these characters? Because it does feel, their life together does feel very well suited to, I mean, like a longer form series format where, I don't know, I walked away wanting to know more about what Sadie had done to, you know, like fix certain issues before this one and how they all kind of snap back after what we see in the movie.
I actually wrote I missed everyone so much. I made one called On the Rails that was about Breeda and Sam, like in recovery, living in Joy Pride's house, like trying to get their life together. And yeah, there's, again, I'm glad you like Sadie, because I always write myself instantly out of everything once the like necessity of like, I know that I'm free. I know I'm available for reshoots. I don't need to talk to anyone. Like I can just do it. So I feel like as an actor, I like am often more utilitarian than actually like, you know, anything beyond that. So thanks. Maybe I'll consider incorporating Sadie into that story. We got to bring Joy back to life in flashbacks.
You know what? It's so crazy that you asked that question, because a friend of my husband's texted me this morning and she was like, I just watched the movie last night. She was like, all the characters are so layered and so awesome and I want more. Have you guys thought about making this into a TV series? And I was like, ooh, good idea. Never thought of it that way. You know, I was just like, yeah, no, that's so cool. Actually, I remember the last day we shot, Kestrin was like, we should make this into a play. And I was like, oh, that's good too.
It did cross my mind while watching it that I feel like it could suit that format quite well.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of like, well,
we should make a play. Oh my!
Yeah, no, I was like, that would happen first, and then you make the movie. But hey, with Kestrin, there's no rules, people. And
what about just getting experimental with it and getting the whole same group back again? And I don't know, not necessarily swapping roles, but maybe creating a new story where everybody plays someone drastically different to who they played in this one.
Oh, that's
good.
Yeah,
we shot a pilot in January, actually. Yeah. That is the beginnings of that. That was, yeah, it's like Breeda and Sam are like the feuding devils of my imagination personified by Breeda and Sam. So Sam is like this sad sack, like Morrissey, like pissy, like angry person, like the person in your head who tells you that you're a piece of shit when no one responds to your email. Like, oh, well, maybe you wrote a shitty email and you suck at life and you should just go die in a hole. Yeah, like that's Sam. And then Breeda is the one that's like, but the lobster happened, so who knows? Maybe you're a genius. And that interaction.
I need to see this. I also would like to bet that you guys had the best rap party ever for this movie. So how did you guys kind of close it out and celebrate?
I think we went to South by and drank and like just drove across the country and I think South by was our rap party.
Yeah, I had to, I think me and Milana had to like leave immediately. We were like shooting right up to the day.
Or you guys wrote that idea and pitched me on the sidewalk. We were parked on the side of the street on Congress, and Breeda and Milana pitched me the idea of the like creativity pilot that we ended up shooting. That's what our rap party was like, pitching a new show.
Yeah, I feel like South by was our rap party, kind of.
South by
I like flew to Charleston like immediately.
Right. I had never been to South by before. And again, I will say my age. I'm 51 years old. I had not partied like that in a long time.
Yeah, girl. It was fun. It was fun when you party. I love it.
It was too much, but it was so much fun. And it was such a release of just like being with everybody and being with the coolest audiences in the world and watching and understanding and loving. And it was my cousin Heather was there, and
Heather?
Yeah, cousin Heather came.
Was SNL like crazy party town when you did that?
It's funny, Breeda, that you asked that because, well, that's how, I mean, that's how it all started. Like if you read about the first group, that originated Saturday Night Live, John Belushi and Gilda Radner and all those people were, yeah, they partied hard. And then, so that started in the late 70s. And so
and you were with Chris Farley, right? Like
Chris Farley, partied hardy. So there was sort of this lingering feeling of like, I think between Chris and maybe me and just like a few other people that wanted to carry on that tradition and thought that it was just part of the gig. You do Saturday Night Live and then you stay up all night until 6 o'clock in the morning and all this kind of stuff. I didn't do that every show, but I've since learned that it's not really like that anymore. And it's more like, I heard Tina Fey talking on Oprah about this. She was like, that night is business. You have a cocktail and you mingle with the people and you whatever. And I was like, that doesn't sound like very much fun. But she did talk about that. I partied my ass off.
As you should. And you all better have done the same in South by when you got to celebrate. And you should all be doing it now. I know the circumstances are not the best right now, but really this is a perfect movie to watch on Mother's Day weekend. And it's quite the accomplishment. I do want to scroll back quickly in the live chat to one comment that I did miss that I feel like is a good note to end on. Christy said, I can't think of a question, but this has been great. I'm really looking forward to watching the movie after this. So if you guys all want to check out Mother's Little Helpers, I had like a fit. Here's the graphic. That doesn't really give you a specific spot and it blocks some faces. So I didn't put it up there, but go watch the movie. It's available on demand right now. It was so nice to see all your faces. Congratulations. I hope you're staying safe.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Perri. This has been so wonderful and exciting. I love talking to you. Mother's Little Helpers, you can find everything at motherslittle.helpers.co, and Mother's Little Helpers Film on Instagram has the link to everywhere you can buy it. iTunes, Amazon, On Demand, the world.
All right, guys, get on it. Check it out. And I'll see you in 20 minutes for another happy hour.
Love you. Thanks.